So guys, you have seen when we were talking about chemolithotrophy, that is the utilization of inorganic moieties for the production of energy, you could see the diversity, the enormous diversity the living organisms have as far as the production of energy is concerned, as far as the possibility of their survival and their propagation is concerned. They can make use of iron, they can make use of sulfur, they can make use of nitrogen containing compounds like ammonia, nitrites, nitrates, they can make use of hydrogen, you name it. They can oxidize these compounds to get energy and survive, which also mean that they can survive in whole sort of environments. No matter how harsh this environment can be for one type of life, they can still survive over there. Then this also should make us to think about the possibility of having life in environments which are perhaps not very similar to the environments we see in our cities or our villages, but still there are certain environments on our globe which are quite extreme environments, and still bacteria and archaea are living there and thriving there. And you have seen that. It also means then the possibility of having life over there in the skies in other planets is now high. If you ask me, I can bet personally, I can bet on it that there is life over there. I have no doubt about it. And it's not because I am very good in making prophecies. This is what my knowledge of science tells me. To me, it's probability 1. You can write it over somewhere there. But anyway, we will see. And we were also very lucky that in the last 5 or 10 years, there have been some revolution in the field of astronomy, especially in the field which involve using telescopes. There are being very, very highly developed telescopes are being used, like Kepler telescope, like James Webb telescope, which are now showing us that to what extent the exoplanet which can be inhabited by life or living organisms, or by living organisms, how much is the possibility there. So we are living in a very, very exciting times, and we will discuss it in this and the succeeding lecture. So now, as we are moving towards almost the end of our course, we have talked about a lot of the aspects of the biochemistry, especially the metabolic biochemistry. Now it must be very clear to you guys that how important is metabolism for life. Actually, life is all about metabolism. Not only this, you must have also learned until now that there is whole diversity of metabolic pathways through which the living organism can harness energy. They can live in any condition, you name it, very cold, very warm, very hot, very acidic, very saline. The living organism can still manage to thrive them, especially the microbes still manage to thrive there. We have seen that there are iron oxidizing bacteria, there is hydrogen oxidizing bacteria, there is sulfide oxidizing bacteria, there is nitrogen oxidizing bacteria, and archaea, of course, which shows that how diverse are the possibilities to thrive in any environment. And it has implications, and I have been talking about this aspect of biochemistry of living organisms throughout my course, that there is the possibility of life, the extraterrestrial life, is not a fantasy. It's really scientific thing. We have enough data now which shows us, which makes us to say that the possibility of life is much higher in the extraterrestrial planets also, in the extraterrestrial plants also. We have been talking about the extremophiles, the microorganisms which live in very hot temperatures or very cold temperatures also, in the freezing temperatures also, in very acidic environments also. For example, there are thermophiles in hot springs and hydrothermal vents. There are halophiles in highly saline environment. And of course, this has implication as far as searching the life in the extraterrestrial places, that is in the other planets, is concerned. Then another important property of life is that it creates a chemical imbalance in the environment. For example, what I mean that because of the utilization of different chemicals in the environment, there is always either excess or lack or scarcity of the nutrients or of the different chemicals in the environment. And for example, existence of oxygen and methane in the Earth's atmosphere is one example of that. And this imbalance can be checked if you want to detect the signs of life in other planets. You can check that if there is one of these disbalance or more than one of these disbalance or equilibrium disequilibriums can be seen over there. If you come across, for instance, a planet where you find excessive oxygen, or you find excessive nitrogen or excessive phosphorus, these are all the important components of the materials which are making our life or which are important for our life. So if you find that disequilibrium over there also in other planets, it means that we can find the possibility of having life there, it increases. So if you find these biosignatures over there in the other planets also, it would indicate that maybe life is also thriving over there. And scientists are now, they have been doing it all the time, I mean, from the very past, I mean, for last 50 years or so. But in the recent 10 to 15 years, their efforts have been increased tremendously. And because of one of two reasons, which we will be talking soon. So as far as the potential biosignatures are concerned, I mean, what are those potential biosignatures? It must not be difficult for you. I mean, when we have been going through all the metabolic pathways and how different metabolites are utilized or produced by the living organism. One example is oxygen, of course. The other example is hydrogen. Then there is example of methane also. They all may be present on other planets. If you can see them in some excess, it would mean that perhaps there is some indication there of life. As far as the biosignatures are concerned, the presence of methane, for instance, it will indicate the presence of the methanogenesis process, which might be taking place in other planets. So if you, of course, it doesn't mean that it will not certainly make it certain that life is there, but it will increase the possibility that life might be there. Similarly, if you find more oxygen somewhere, so oxygen, of course, is one of the major product of living processes of our respiration, but there are other sources also which produce oxygen. So it will not mean that definitely the presence of oxygen or methane mean that life is there, but still it will increase the possibility that life will be there. And then it will, then combining with other indicators and other findings, we can make with some certainty that yes, life is thriving on those planets and in those areas.